Hello everybody, this is Kyusho here. Now then, as you can tell by the title of this video, this is going to be my 1.5k special. Now, before I begin, thank you to everyone who stuck around my channel and actually watched my videos. And another thing. Someone has asked me if I can put my videos in a playlist, and I have been doing that. But I do need to continue with the rest of them. So if you guys if you guys have watched those series, then, well, you guys have known that my audio quality has not been good. And I am actually still looking into getting a better mic. Now then, with that being said, let us begin. Our story does not start with Inko, it does not start with Deku, it starts somewhere else. It starts with a girl named Elizabeth Green, in the first generation of quirks. Her quirk being very weird. Her quirk, as they call it, is not a quirk at all. It is actually the red light virus, which has yet to mutate into the Blacklight Virus. Now, she is taken away and it is found that her genetic makeup is quite odd, because the strain that was released on the people of her town, Aldadrin, not only did it kill and, well, mess with certain people's genetics, it also found a way into her body, her bloodstream, where her chemical makeup and her biological makeup have changed, giving her an immunity, allowing her to be perfect, seeing as it's been killing everyone else, but she is the perfect host. Now, with that, you will have her being experimented on by Alex Mercer. He is the protagonist of Prototype 1, but this is where the timeline splits. This is where I am changing things. Alex Mercer would go through the series that go on in the games, and in the end, there is the fight against him and Elizabeth Green. With one key difference. Elizabeth Green winning and consuming Alex. Now, with that, her city is put under quarantine, as the heroes and everyone around is trying to evacuate the city. They would have sent off bombs, and it just nuked every area around the city, allowing no access points off, as Aldadrin is actually just like San Francisco. This allows me to change and alter the world in ways that I see fit, so they would do that, leaving the island in peace. Now, yes, I know it is in Japan, but this is going to be a what if. So for those of you who are saying that doesn't make sense, please keep in mind this is just a story. Now, with that, this is where Deku would come in. Finally, after a couple hundred years of Elizabeth Green being presumed dead, and her virus that her quirk made, her genetic makeup has made is now gone. So they believe it is time to bring people in. Now, they are actually sending people in for cleanup crews and everything they can, and this is where Inko would actually move. Due to the poor state of the city they are living in, them not being able to get enough money to scrape by, they would actually move to Aldadrin, while it is being rebuilt, since they are basically allowing people to come back into the city and live for free, as long as they do help clean up and tidy up the city. Now, as soon as that does happen, the city was basically abandoned for 100 years, and this is where it's going on. The city is still being cleaned up, and things are still messy. Until one day, there was an outbreak. The first case of infection after about 50 to 60 years after the city was originally, taken down, as they say. Now, this infection did speculate and actually throw suspicion that Elizabeth Green may still be alive. or she may have had a son or a daughter, but it is unknown at this point. Now, All For One has shown interest in this, but after his doctor told him that this wasn't even a quirk, he realized that this is dangerous, so he would stay away from it. Now, with that being said, Hisashi and Inko would meet as they would finally give birth to Inko would finally give birth to Deku. He is born as a healthy baby, but he is quirkless. Now, growing up, things have been a bit difficult. Deku finding that they're usually moving from refugee camp to refugee camp, and actually changing certain things. Staying away from certain areas of the city and certain places they used to go. This has been more and more insane and reckless. As Deku would finally come to the realization one day at the age of 7 that they are in a war zone. This city that he lives in, it's dangerous, it's decrepit, it's completely insane. And one day, there is a series of events. The military is coming in to actually help take down some of the rest of the infected. Whenever there is a woman passing Deku on the street, she would pass by Deku and she does look down at him. As Deku does stare at her for a second and he's still walking with his mom. They are going to a new zone to hide from the hunters and the rest of the mutants in the city. As the place had been getting a bit more harsher to survive in. And quirkless people have been struggling. Due to that, Inko's telekinesis has been getting stronger and she has been using it more to try and stay alive, allowing her to actually lift up herself and her son and move around. So, while this is all happening, Deku, he watches as the woman, she would immediately just change. Her body turns into armor as she makes a blade, as she charges towards the tanks and immediately picks one up, immediately tossing at the other one as she goes in, ripping off the gun turret and immediately smashing it across the tank as it explodes. Now, as this is happening, Inko, she would watch and be horrified as she immediately uses her quirk to immediately grab Deku and immediately start flying up into the air as she's trying to get away. Elizabeth would have taken notice of this as she finds it a bit interesting, keeping a mental note on who that boy was. Green eyes, green hair, and at a young age. Just like her baby. Before it was taken. Which makes her angry, as she would go back to demolishing and actually taking out the military, as she releases her hunters. Now, let us time skip to a little bit more of an older age. Deku, he is now at the age of 7 to 8 years old, closer to 9, as he is parkouring and running throughout the entire city. He is running through the red zone, as he has a hunter chasing him. He would immediately turn running into an alley as he begins by parkouring up, grabbing the ladder and immediately climbing as he starts going up further and further. Now the hunter, they would have immediately looked around as it would look up. It would immediately see Deku as it begins to climb into and actually bury its claws into the wall. As soon as it does so, Deku would get to the top, and the rest of, everyone on top of the building would immediately begin by smashing and actually taking down the pathway, dropping it onto the hunter. They would immediately begin moving in as they actually do stab into it and kill it by taking out its brain, but making sure by just filling it full of metal. Now, Deku, he's immediately panting and he's really tired as he would just say that that was not fun. Well, of course it's not, as a man would walk up. This man would go on saying that this isn't supposed to be fun. You were picked because you are the fastest one here. And you're also one of the only ones in fit condition. This is supposed to be a way to help us protect our territory. Hunters don't usually come around here, but they're coming so more often. So whatever is happening, it is crazy. Not just that, the military they blew up the bridges again, so we're not even able to get out of the city. Now, Deku, hearing about this, he would think that that's crazy, as he immediately walks into the camp. Now, he does walk down another pathway as he sees the giant wall. He thinks that it's a good thing they use this old building, because it would be bad otherwise. The way the world is now, it's a bit more harsh, and they don't really see in this town quirkless being bad or good. Worried over survival over anything. If you're strong enough to survive, you're strong enough to have respect. Give it to other people or don't do anything. If you don't respect anyone, you might as well just jump off a building into the infected. That is how things are. That is the way people think. Now, as that is happening, Deku, he would meet up with a group. He meets up with quite a lot of people, as he actually does meet one girl. He meets Ochako Uraraka, quirk 0 gravity. He meets her and he actually talks with her, asking her exactly why her family is here and other things. She would explain that it's a bit of the same reasons that Deku's family is here, and Deku would find this a bit sad. But he would understand, as he would go to see his mother. His mother is actually the town doctor, because she did have a bit of... Whenever she was younger, she did take different schools. Now, Deku's mother is actually the town doctor. She actually did get forced in this position, but it wasn't all bad, as she did so out of willingness to help Deku. She was already looking into getting a job to help Hisashi, her getting into medical school and starting right before the outbreak happened. So she at least kept her medical books and kept on studying them, as it allowed her to actually help everyone out. She is tending to someone who has slash marks on their chest, and who actually did survive the initial attack with the hunter Deku had just helped kill. Now, after this happened, Deku, he is told that him and quite a few other people, they will have a simple mission. He would go out with 2 grown adults and 5 of the soldiers who are left in the city. These soldiers are not Blackwatch, they are military. They are here to protect. They took the risk and know exactly what will happen if they are captured and or killed by infected. They just want to help people. They have been trying to send in tanks in the military, but even that has proven ineffective. They have thought about sending in heroes, but if heroes get affected by the Blacklight Virus, they don't know what it would do to them. So they've been trying to keep them away. But anyone with a useless quirk they could send in, to at least experiment on the effect. Now, with that being said, Deku, he would go out with Ochako and 2 other people. With 5 grown adults in the military with firearms and guns, and 2 of the adults from his town, or at least his small settlements. They would be going out and actually walking, as they would hear one thing. They've made it down about 2 blocks, as they would finally hear a swarm. Or at least that's what they call it, as they immediately just pile into and actually duck behind some rubble inside of a building. At least what's left of it, as this giant hulking behemoth is walking down the street. It is sniffing around and actually smelling through the air. As one thing would happen. A hunter would immediately be running over and I would actually run around a corner and actually you would hear a person scream. Now, the hunter would immediately rip apart and kill the woman as it is dragging her body out. As the behemoth would immediately slam its hand down on the hunter, crushing it and it would immediately taking its meal for its own, as it would continue on, immediately rushing through the city, or at least looking for more prey. Now, After that happened, they were immediately relieved, finding that they didn't get caught. Now, with that being said, mm, ah, that was almost a sneeze. With that being said, they would finally find an old store, or an old supermarket, if you will. They would walk in and they are immediately just piling up as much stuff as they can. A lot of this stuff here, it's more in the dangerous area, so people avoid it at all cost. Because there are 3 known, if not 5 known behemoths, and packs of hunters in the area. So you have to be careful. Now, they'd be piling up as much food as they can as they hear one simple thing happen. A woman would run by and she's actually just smashing and smashing on the door, as she is asking to be let in. Everyone would just immediately just turn off the lights as they actually do hide. Now what I mean by that is they would immediately close the blinds, do whatever they can, and immediately just hide behind counters. As one of the men actually does have their rifle set up, and they're actually just aiming at the woman. They are waiting to see exactly what happens as the woman, she's smashing on the glass until she's actually cracking through it. Until a hunter immediately sweeps by, picking her up and dragging her away, never to be seen again. As Deku and Nunchako, they're actually just hiding their faces and somewhat crying. The men having to explain that it's an act for survival. It's not pretty, it's bad, but we do hope you understand. If you take a chance like that, it can be bad. It can cause you your life. Just like your father, Izuku. Elizabeth Green got to him. Or tricked him, more or less. That is why he asked if I can protect you. Keep you alive. Now, Deku, hearing this story 1,000 times, he would just nod his head as he would wipe away his tears, filling his backpack and them all heading back to the settlement. As they are getting ready and actually sitting down to eat food. The entire place is a bit cheerful and they're actually playing a bit of music. Not very loud, but at least having enough area on the rooftops around to at least seal off their settlements. I wouldn't say they can put a top on their settlement, but they'd at least be in the buildings, playing music and keeping the sound muffled. As they are eating and sitting down for food. They are doing so as over on the other, in a different city, All Might is sitting down to talk with everyone. They're all explaining that this is a bit crazy and it's not possible. All Might talking with the military and the military somewhat fighting him on this again. Whoever that descendant or person is inside the city who is infected with the virus, they are the main cause of everything. They're not even sure if they can get the civilians out of that city without causing another outbreak. Even then, that would probably cause them the entire country and lead to annihilation from the rest of the world. So he can't let him risk the lives of this many people for this many lives. The numbers are bad. He knows that, but he is willing to accept those losses. He's willing to accept those deaths on his conscience. He is not willing to accept that his daughter and his wife would be annihilated. As All Might, he just is annoyed and he would finally slam his hands down, explaining that that is not acceptable. That they should be able to save everyone. But at least let him try. Now, with that happening, the military would finally authorize an actual event for heroes. They would authorize that heroes can finally come into Alderdon and try and help the survivors. They only know about 5 to 20 known settlements in the city. Because with camera surveillance and global global satellites, they can at least tell that there are settlements with fires and walls. But they are at least not around these areas, as he would immediately point to the heart of the red zone, saying that this entire city block, it is the source of the hive, the biggest known one since the infection outbreak. Well, the first one, whenever it was still classified and not mutated to this point. However, you do need to know one thing. This is going to be Sergeant James Heller. He is going to be assisting you. He used to live in the city before shit went to hell. As James Heller would immediately step up, saying that he might be quirkless, but he's always been trained for this shit like this. Now, All Might would shake the man's hand as he would explain that if he's going to help him get the survivors out of there, then it will be a pleasure to work with him. Heller would just say that it will be fine, but he just is after Elizabeth Green. That woman was the reason why his family is gone. It's the reason people he knows and loves are gone. But if you're going to at least help me, then I guess I can work with a pro. As these two would shake their hands, and the event would be authorized and broadcasted on TV. As heroes are just lining up one after another to try and help the survivors. As All Might, he would get tanks, helicopters, and any military personnel authorized to do so, heading straight for the bridge, as they would be making their way into the city. Now then, that is where I'm going to be leaving this part off of, guys. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, I need to go answer someone's question as to what this was, because I gave them a big hint as to what apocalyptic scenario I was doing, and apparently it kind of flew over his head. If you are watching up to this point, dude, what type of light you wouldn't want to shine in a hotel room? Black lights. I was hoping he'd get the joke, but apparently not. Anyways, sorry, man, but that was... I didn't want to spoil it and have you get overly excited and wait for it and then have it take so much time in my editing software and all that just for it to come out and be like, oh, that's all this. So I'm going to go tell you right now that it's Blacklight.